What a season it was for the Minnesota Vikings. Making it to the NFC Championship Game, one game away from being the first team, the first host city to play in the Super Bowl. And the NFC Championship Game was a good start for the Vikings. They had a 7-0 lead early, but the Eagles just came back and stormed and scored 38 unanswered points. And the turning point in that game, in my opinion, was the pick six that tied the game at 7. I think that was the turning point in the game. Now, I'm not going to discredit the Viking season at all, but could this have just been just a one good season type of deal? Because Aaron Rodgers is coming back for the Packers next year, and it always seems to come down to the Packers or the Vikings for the NFC North. Now, there are a couple of exceptions. The Lions are up there in the NFC North, but it seems to always come down to the Packers and the Vikings. Now, of course, the Vikings could still be a competitor for maybe even a wild card position. Now, as you can see, these three things on the draft were behind me: offensive guard, defensive tackle, and a cornerback. Now, a cornerback would be useful because that Viking secondary, it just got torched by Eagles wide receivers Torrey Smith, Alshon Jeffrey, even Zach Ertz, and Nelson Aguilar got in on the fun. So a corner is what they could really use, considering that they're in the division with the Packers, and they could use a corner to cover up wide receivers such as Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb. And the Lions, they're a team that's up there, but I don't think they have the elite wide receivers that a lot of other teams have. Now, Golden Tate's a really solid wide receiver for Detroit, but I don't think he's necessarily elite. Like, he's not an elite like an Antonio Brown or even a Julio Jones or DeAndre Hopkins. So a corner is something they could really use. I think they need about one or two more pieces in the secondary, and then as well one more piece on the offensive line here with an offensive guard. I think for the Vikings to make another run, or maybe a run to a Super Bowl, or to get back to where they are, I think they could. I think they're maybe one offensive lineman away from making a run for it. They're probably one or two pieces in the secondary away from making another run. Maybe one more corner is what they need. Or even right here, a defensive tackle. A defensive tackle, maybe find a run stopper. Or find a pass rusher. Find someone that could do a little bit of both for a defensive tackle. Maybe they might need one more of each of these things to make another run. But I do want to add in a quarterback because the Vikings, they haven't really addressed their quarterback needs necessarily because Sam Bradford, Teddy Bridgewater, and Case Keenum are all heading to free agency. Now, either a couple of options are going to happen here. One, either all three going to stay for some reason, but I don't see necessarily the point of all three of them staying there. I think at least one of them is not going to be on the Vikings next year. I think one of them is probably going to go to the Jets, and maybe another one to the Cardinals. That could be a possibility. And now that I do mention that, today I received a comment from Spaceboy. He commented on my Jets draft board. He says that he honestly thinks the Jets will try to make a play for Sam Bradford. So that could be one of their quarterback situations. Or even two. All three of them are going to leave. Case Keenum will leave somewhere. Sam Bradford will leave somewhere. Teddy Bridgewater will leave somewhere. And they'll have to start from scratch. 3, they might try to pull in Kirk Cousins. 4, they'll probably just flat out draft one maybe at some point in this draft. Or even A.J. McCarron, who A.J. McCarron has announced that he will be a free agent. So they might try to make a move for him and try to make a move for maybe a veteran quarterback, like a Kirk Cousins. So that could be one of the plays as well. But the truth is, I honestly do see Case Keenum staying, even though some people, even Pat Shermer, said that Case Keenum didn't amaze him this year. Although the Minneapolis Miracle play was an amazing play, but still, the way that Pat Shermer was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings, he's now going to be the coach of the Giants. He said throughout the season that Case Keenum didn't amaze him, that he's just been playing with lucky horseshoe, and he knows that he can turn to Sam Bradford when they were down by double digits. So there's a couple different plays there for a Vikings quarterback. But ideally, the Vikings could be just one offensive lineman away. They could be one defensive tackle player away. They could, well, let me rephrase that. They could be one offensive lineman away. They could be one defensive player away. They could be one secondary player away from making another run to an NFC Championship game, or even further than that, maybe a Super Bowl. We just never know in the NFL. Now, whether or not this is going to be the Vikings, this is just like a 1 year wonder for the Vikings. We'll find out toward the middle of 2018. But for now, we just got to anticipate that the Vikings are kind of like the NFC's version of the Jaguars. They could just be one thing away on different positions from being a Super Bowl champion or contending for a championship. So that just seems to be ideal. The Vikings could be a couple players away. Considering that Aaron for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay could end quite soon, maybe even sooner than we think. But as far as things are concerned, let's look at the Vikings and see if it's going to be a 1 year wonder or if they can make it back to the postseason next year.